Give us an impression of the three, and we'll start with Milosevic. What was your sense of him, his criminal activities?
A bully and a thug.
Right.
A very powerful man, but in essence, I think, a bully and a thug. When you have a situation like that, you have to be alert to try to keep things in court focused on what's relevant and what's not relevant. And one of the things that happens with people like this is that it becomes a political forum for them, which is exactly what it became for him. But you need to keep it focused on the elements of the crimes, elements of responsibility, all of those things that are legal, they're not political. And so you need to be sure that what you're there to prove doesn't get lost in the mix. You also need to be concerned when somebody decides to represent himself or herself. It almost puts an additional burden on the prosecution because you have to protect the record on appeal. And the other thing, of course, is that when it becomes a political message, you don't really know exactly what it is that you may have to rebut here. So you have to be very attentive to make sure that in your examination of their witnesses and your examination of them if they testify, that you focus back on how you're proving your case to make sure that there isn't something that's been raised in a political context that may impact on your burden of proof to prove these crimes, these modes of liability beyond a reasonable doubt.
Karadzic.
Smart. I think a very clever man. Very good, I think, at the use of propaganda. Very devious man, I think.
Mladic.
Very, very much the Serbian general. I think probably very straightforward in many ways. I think also probably a lot of elements of the bully, the thug.
When you investigated in Serbia the crimes, and you were raising the question of who are the most responsible, were those the three names that jumped out?
Well, at the beginning, and the mandate for the ICT1 and the ICTR was that you shall prosecute those who committed serious violations of international humanitarian law. Well, you're talking about tens of thousands of people.
Right.
So you had to, of course, at the very beginning have an idea about what was the structure. How high up might the criminality go? And there was enough information there to know that the structure certainly went up to Karadzic, certainly went up as a potential, it would depend on the evidence, went up to Milosevic. Mladic, because of the notoriety of the siege of Sarajevo and other things, another possibility. So they didn't have that restricted mandate. We didn't have that restricted mandate. So we didn't automatically think that, although those would have been in our scope as potential suspects, depending on how the evidence developed.
Richard Goldstone, what was he like?
A very genteel man. Very accomplished man, very sensitive to the fundamental human rights that had been violated by these crimes. And he was, I think, the man that we needed at the time. He was able to basically put the court on the map, to work in different arenas, to make it known that we were there, that we were moving forward, to gain some cooperation for us. So very much the one to build bridges, to set the foundation for us to be able to do our work. But a man for whom I have a great deal of respect.
Louise Arbour.
A brilliant woman, insightful woman. We would have issues. We had weekly meetings where we would talk about legal issues that came up, procedural issues, or we would have an indictment review, and we'd be at an impasse. There would be this group that said this and this group that said that, or we'd be talking about this legal construct and how do we use it. Again, we'd have a division. We'd go to Louise and we'd say, here it is. And she'd say, boom, boom, boom. And that would be it. It would be like, of course. So very dynamic woman, very personable, but again, very, very brilliant, very insightful in legal mind that really helped us to steer a very steady and I think right course during the time that she was there.
Carla Del Ponte.
Strong woman, kind of a in-your-face, smash-mouth football kind of woman.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think was who we needed at the time. We needed information we weren't getting, despite what we had been asking for. And she came in, and it was like, we're going to get it, and that's the way it is. Very forceful, pushing forward to kind of push through the obstacles that Louise had not been able to finesse. And so again, I think we're very fortunate to have the right woman at the right time in that position.
Charles Taylor was the president of Liberia, a contiguous country. Yet it's a special tribunal for Sierra Leone dealing with those most responsible for the crimes within Sierra Leone. Help the viewer connect the Charles Taylor dot.
Sure. It has to do with the ways in which you can be responsible for crimes. And the way that we're most familiar with is if you directly perpetrate the crime. You kill someone, you rape someone, you enslave someone. But there are other ways that you can be responsible. Even, as was the case with Charles Taylor, if you never directly commit any of the crimes yourself, if you were never in the country. And those ways can be that you gave orders that you either intended by those orders the crimes would be committed, or in giving those orders, you were aware of the reasonable likelihood that when they carried out your orders, they would commit crimes. You can be similarly guilty for planning, either planning something that is inherently criminal, or being part of a plan or devising a plan that you're aware in the implementation of that plan, there's a reasonable likelihood these crimes will be committed. Or for aiding and abetting, providing support that contributes substantially to the commission of these crimes. Again, with the knowledge or intent or awareness that these crimes are likely to result from your contribution, or as being part of a joint criminal enterprise. We all agree to ultimate objectives, which may or may not be criminal, and the criminal means by which we're going to achieve those objectives. And we each have a different role in that plan, but we are agreed upon that plan. Now, we don't have to sit down in a room and agree to it. We don't have to write down our agreement. You can see that that agreement is in place by all the circumstances before you. So these are ways you can be responsible for the criminal conduct of others. And those are the ways in which Charles Taylor was responsible for the crimes that were committed by the Revolutionary United Front and the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council in Sierra Leone, as well as by Liberian subordinates that he sent to Sierra Leone. But for me, the legacy is how well did we do what we were mandated to do? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of expectations are placed on these courts that have nothing to do with their mandate or their resources. And then they're judged in terms of those functions rather than their core function. So to me, the legacy will be that the Special Court for Sierra Leone did what it was mandated to do. It identified those individuals who bore the greatest responsibility for the crimes. After investigations and the approval of indictments, they were tried. They were given fair trials, trials at which witnesses and victims were treated with dignity and heard with dignity. So there was a rule of law applied to accountability. And we did the job we were asked to do. To me, that is the key legacy. And we did it in a way that should be emulated by other courts, national courts. That is, we gave a fair trial to these accused.